all of my plants in one video. Yes! Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new, my name is Rose. My pronouns are she, her. Today I'm going to show you all of my plants. All of them. So this is going to be quite a long video. This video is kindly sponsored by Skillshare, which I will tell you a little bit more about later on in the video. Let's get started. As always with these videos, we're starting upstairs. If you haven't seen my previous ones, I will link them down below and maybe in here as well. Here upstairs we have a few plants, not a lot. Partly because we want to be able to use this space. I have a few Hoyas in here, but also because it's a little bit darker here than downstairs. I have some plants spread out. Let's start over here with a few Hoyas. This is Hoya picta, which is an adorable plant that I got as a small cutting. It's grown a lot. I love the cute shape of the leaves and also the adorable little flowers. It flowers a lot for me. There's a lot of buds hanging everywhere. This lived in my tent until quite recently, and I recently moved it here to see how that does. I might have to chop this and then make it a little bit fuller. Let me know what you think, if you agree or if you should leave it like this. I think it would look cuter, fuller. Then this one here is my Hoya Mini Bell, which has a bit of a funky shape, and I didn't know it was growing until this spring. It all of a sudden started to grow all these tendrils, which by the way are all growing away from the light, so that says something. And then recently it opened its first flowers. Only a few of the buds survived, and they're quite funky, as you can see here. Sorry about all the seagulls, by the way, they're really loud today. But normally Hoya flowers are like this, have 5 petals or whatever they're called, but these two have only 4, so that's kind of funky. It has another set of buds that is here, that is opening. It's a little bit hard to show you because it's so bright up here, but they're really beautifully dark pink, which you can't really see right now. Future me just popping in to show you that the flowers have opened. Look how cute they are, and pink and beautiful. Up here is a Hoya, Dischidia ruskifolia, which I've ignored a lot. I'm not quite sure what to do with this plant. It seems to be growing, but it also has tendrils that are dying off a lot. So I don't know. I don't think I like it anymore. Not a lot, at least. Down here are a few more Hoyas. I'll put it in the spotlight, this one. This is my Hoya compacta variegata. Yeah, compacta variegata. So with the outside variegation, which you can see here, some new leaves. It's grown quite a lot since I moved it here. It got burned when I first got it, but that's okay. There's 2 tendrils in there, and I think there's a new growth point activated down there. And next to it, I have a Hoya retusa that I got for my birthday last year, and it was a small tiny cutting, and it's grown into this. Although I don't think it's super happy. I feel like it's super dry right now. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing wrong, but it's okay. It lives here, it's fine. Over on this side, we have my Hoya loheri, which I absolutely love. It's so cute, and it used to live in a tent as well, which is why the leaves are so sun-stressed. And this is another one that I think I'm gonna propagate and make a little bit fuller, because look how long these tendrils are. And then it would just be nicer if it was a little bit more full of a pot. This has not flowered for me yet. This is a Hoya cinnamonifolia variety purpura fusca. That wasn't doing well, so I took some cuttings. I have the main plant downstairs. And I was growing this in the tent. As you can see, it's got some new leaves that were a lot lighter than the previous leaves, especially these ones. They were growing up towards the grow light. So that's why I decided to move it out, because I actually prefer this darker color. These are a little bit dusty. But yeah, so that's why it's now here. It still gets a lot of light, but not as bright as in the tent. And then the main one that's hanging here, it's kind of hard to show you. Wait, I'm gonna try and take it off for a sec. That's better. This is my Hoya Sunrise that I put in here. I got this as a small cutting, and it's growing, so that's good. I feel like they're very unpredictable. Sometimes they're growing and then sometimes they're dying. And there's another tendril here. Then on this side is a Hoya David Kamingi that I also got as a small cutting. And I'm just noticing now actually that there is a peduncle budding up on that one. I already had spotted a peduncle here as well. I can't show you, I don't have hands free to show you. Wait, hang still please. There is a peduncle. On this side is a Croniana that is also growing right now. And this one long tendril keeps flowering for me. Oh, where are you going? Stay. So that's really cool. It's two peduncles kind of intertwined. And I love the smell of these. Very flowery, very fresh. In this corner is still my Boston fern. It's still alive. It's even still growing. I don't know how that happened, but yeah. And then over on this shelf, we have my Begonia maculata that I often forget to water. So this gets very floppy sometimes, very dried out. So that's why probably the leaves don't look the happiest. But it's still here, and I'm surprised because I don't give this one a lot of attention. Oops. But it's still alive. In the center here, underneath our skylight, we have my Hoya Mathilde that is crazy flowering. So she's quite big in general already. She came with a lot of peduncles, and this is the second time that they're all budding up for me. I had a few flowers already open, but they just dropped off today. So I'm really excited about this one. I know people say that the smell is not nice, but I actually don't mind the smell. Even when there were so many flowers, it was actually fine. And the leaves are adorable. One of my favorite, fastest growing Hoyas. Future me again. Matilda is opening today as well, so I just wanted to add that in to show you. So pretty. And then if we move over to this space, there are a few plants in here. Oh, I didn't mention, but that is a south-facing window. And this is a north-facing window looking over our garden. Solar panels, and that's the greenhouse in the back there. People get confused sometimes and think it's attached to the house, but it's not. It's all the way in the back of the garden. Anyway, I have my Marantas here, Maranta lemon lime. This was one really big plant that was infested with thrips. And so I moved it into a plastic box for a long time with predatory mites. And you'll see predatory mites all over my plants. I often get the question, what are the baggies? They are predatory mite suppliers. And it's finally, I think, thrips free. And so it moved out of the box to make space for other plants that are infested. I have a gigas here, philodendron gigas, that I have not shown you yet. I was gonna film a unboxing or like a haul video, but then everything had thrips, so I was less enthusiastic maybe than normal. Look, this is my... Oh, you see the thrips? Fun. So fun. The long one right there. And then the small ones are all probably good bugs or also thrips, I don't know. So that's still not going great. I'm gonna close this really quickly, but I got this from one of my friends in a trade. It's actually really fluffy aerial roots. So once this is pest free, I think I'm gonna chop it up and make lots of babies so that we have a full plant, and then hopefully the leaves can start to grow a little bit bigger as well. Quickly closing. Let's look at something fun first. This is my little Fittonia terrarium with one not Fittonia that's outgrowing the rest by far. But there's a lot of different beautiful kinds in here. I never show you this anymore because it's so overgrown and it's just doing its thing. But look, all the pink ones in the bottom there. Super beautiful. Yeah, this is... Oh, and this one is really cool too, over here. The bright pink veins and the green leaves coming from this way. So this is very cool one, I think. It doesn't need a lot of light, so it just sits here in my office space, which is a complete mess, by the way. So I'm not going to show you that too much. So we just let it sit here with a little thingy on top to keep the humidity in. And then the worst is this one. We're only going to open it a little bit because of the thrips. I decided to spin the box around on its side so that some of more bigger plants could fit in here from the tent. This is my Clarinervium that had some thrips issues. In the back there is my Tortum, which actually grew a new leaf and is now growing like a climber. See how it's a stem instead of just a base? Oh, and there's a new leaf that's unfurling here as well. But it had thrips damage, so it's in here. These are my Verrucosum propagations that also showed a lot of thrips damage on the new leaves still, even though the leaves look beautiful. I didn't trust it. And then my Melanochrysum propagations. Oh, they like the high humidity. Look at that. This is gonna be fun to propagate. But yeah, the thrips, look at the damage here. Even though I thought I almost had it under control in the tent, seems like there was a lot more that I didn't see. So that's why these moved in here. You can see all the good bugs here. They love high humidity. So normally these bugs stay in the little baggies. They are basically the feeding mites for the predatory mites. But when there's a high humidity like in here, they will climb up and go sit on the leaves or something, which is not bad. You just have to be aware of it. See, so much damage. I wonder if that's leaf miners instead of thrips. I don't know much about them actually. If you know more about leaf miners, please tell me in the comments. We're gonna not look at this too much because it's depressing. Anyone else that gets really sad from looking at the plants that are struggling with pests, it just doesn't bring me as much joy as normal and it gets frustrating. So I kind of hide them up here so I don't have to look at them. But these ones maybe can move downstairs soon because they are so pretty. I did a poll on my Instagram to ask if you wanted a separate video for the terrarium and the tent, and it was basically evenly split, so that was not very helpful. But I'm going to show you kind of quickly what I have in my tent and my terrarium, and then I'll make separate videos where I show you extensively and talk more about the plants because there's a lot to say about them. There's some cool plants in here, also thrips. So after I finish this tour, I'm going to wash my hands thoroughly. So in here, I change the setup often. I currently have the Mars Hydro grow light up here that somehow is flickering. I don't know what's wrong with it, but not great. I'm not happy about it. Up here, I have some chunks of my Mushu, my Ring of Fire. Normally there's a fan in here, but I switched it off because it's pretty loud. Some of my favorite Hoyas are in here. This is a Hoya Sunrise. Then the Hoya Meredithy with the huge leaf. That's been growing a lot, but not necessarily big leaves. Although I'm digging the sun stress on these veins. That's beautiful. And then in the back here, I think this is a Hoya. It sounds like Amoeba, Amuni or something. But when I bought it, he lost the ID, so we're not quite sure. But I'm pretty sure. This one has been struggling a lot. Dischidia numularia. And this is a Hoya Waimanie. And as you can see, the leaves are all tacoing and getting really dark and red. So this is getting a little bit too much light in my tent. It's actually pretty dry as well. We're gonna take it out for a sec. So this could do with a little bit less light. Don't water and film at the same time. I prefer leaves like this over leaves like this. What do you think? I mean, the pattern is cool, but I prefer the leaves like that a little bit more. Maybe I should put it a shelf down. I'll think about it. Then this is my Hoya imbricata. Am I saying that right? Nope, it's actually an Hoya incrostata variegata. And it's still growing, but not a lot. This is Hoya globulosa, which is doing okay. It's a little bit bleached here, but overall it's growing. It's such a weird plant. It doesn't grow steadily like other plants. It's very unpredictable. And it takes breaks in growing a lot, I've noticed. And then back here, if you can see, that's my Rhaphidophora Hai growing all the way from the bottom of the tent all the way up here. And now it's attached to the tent wall. I wonder if that is also thrips damage. Let me just switch off the humidifier. Oh, look, it's a Predatory. Can you see it? Where is it? Here. That's on the hunt for thrips. Why does it not focus? It's always fun to find them. Here we have Casper. In the back here is a Casper baby that's growing well again finally. And then a little bit of a bigger Caspar that I gave some more shade with this thing. So now the leaves are more green instead of purely white and not turning green. So I'm quite happy with that decision. Then here we have some propagations of Melanochrysum again. They are quite hungry, as you can see. Oh, the light is flickering so much, it does not make any sense. And there is definitely some damage on the leaves and some bugs as well. I'm not sure if those are the good bugs or the bad bugs. It's confusing, but there are 4 propagations in here, and I'm gonna feed this a little bit because it's hungry. As you can see by the pattern, if you don't know, this is called chlorosis, and it can mean that the plant needs a little bit more food. In the back there we have an Anthurium scandens, which is very dry and sad because I don't give it any attention, basically. Ooh, and this one is actually fun to show you. This is my jar of chunks, Anthurium chunks, and that is a Metallicum that is now actually alive, which has taken a year or so. And this one is a queen chunk, but that's not doing anything. I actually don't think that will do anything, but we'll see. And I'll tell you more about these things in a separate video so that I can explain what this is and stuff. Down here we have some micans, and we'll keep that for last. And not so well looking Ficus villosa. As you can see, it's struggling. I don't know why. Exactly, maybe thrips as well. Here's another Hoya starting to climb up against the tent wall. I hope you can see everything. I'm going really fast. This is my Metallicum, which might not be a Metallicum, but I bought it as a Metallicum. And it grew a really big leaf downstairs in the terrarium, but then when I switched it up here, it seems to have stopped growing really big leaves. Look, this is much smaller. This is the latest one, is also much smaller. Might also be the pests, I don't know. Then we have some propagations here that I'm making a separate video about, so you'll see that soon. 2 ring of fires that are alive and growing. Over on this side, Melano, the mama plant, basically. That's looking okay, I guess. There's a new point growing here, and there's a new leaf growing behind here. And there's another plant back there as well. And then this, I also haven't shown you yet, I don't think. This is a Gloriosum that I traded with my friend. And it's made a new leaf recently. Look how pretty. And this actually lost its leaf pretty quickly, but then it grew 2 nodes. So it has a baby leaf here and a second baby leaf on the way as well. And this is not how you're supposed to use your baggies, but sometimes I am not giving the right example. Oh, before I forget and leave the tent, this is my Monstera obliqua that's hiding down here because it was getting a little bit blasted in the light. This is the newest leaf. And then there's another one back there on the way. I think I'm gonna propagate this and make a video. Oh, ships! Sorry, I turned the humidifier on. I'm gonna propagate this for a friend, and I'll make a video about it as well, how I do that. And they are actually really easy to grow because lots of aerial roots, just chop and prop basically. Let's switch this back on and continue. One thing I don't often show you is my propagation box that lives up here on the attic, basically. This is my Anthurium babies propagation box. They're actually growing a lot right now. And I don't show people because then they'll immediately ask me to buy plants or to buy seeds or something, and I don't have them for sale. So it's a little bit disappointing. I trade these with friends sometimes, but that's it. These are mostly all of them crystallinums. And then I have some Villanorum down here as well. And there's one hybrid baby somewhere, but I kind of am bad with labeling, so. And most of these I grew from seed, especially the small ones. I grew from seeds that I got from a friend, so they're really fun to see how they go. That box normally sits here underneath our second skylight. Here is an asparagus plant that sits here as well. I figured I would crawl in here and show you from this way, because sometimes it's a little bit easier. This has been living outside all winter, so I'm happy that it's still alive. And then down there, I'll show you from the kitchen as well, but that's my neon pothos, my Epipremnum aureum neon, and another micans. Now we're in our beautiful kitchen. This is the same view from down here. So this is a really cool, one of my first plants that actually has a lot of variegated spots in it, if you're into that kind of stuff. And long tendrils, starting to be happy again. And same for the micans. This was struggling, but it seems to be okay now and seems to look pretty again finally. And then I put this one down here. Normally it sits up there with them. This is my Alocasia cuprea, or a red secret. And it is such a cool plant. This is one of the new leaves. The alien abs look. I actually put this down because it has a really long stem. And one of my friends, or actually several of my friends, were propagating their alocasias. Apparently you can just chop the stem and then grow both the bottom and the top up again. So that's what I'm gonna try and do in a separate video starting today. I might air layer this a little bit first. You can see already there's some nice roots there, so that we can create some more cupreas. I'm curious to see if you guys have done that before, if you knew that you could even do that, chopping an alocasia up like that. Let me know in the comments. I'm very excited to start this process and make this video with updates as always, of course, so that we can all see it together in one video. Over here we have another fern. I forgot the name of this, but it's beautiful. I got it with just the straight things like this, and then it slowly started to become the tri-leaf shape. And I love the colors. I think this is the perfect place for it, where it gets some light from the upstairs window, but not too much. And it's been growing these weird rooty things and then growing new fronds, new leaves from there. I think this is going to be a five star, my first 5-star. I hope. Maybe it will just be something like this, some weird little lobs. And there's another stem there as well. Perfect spot for it. Also, because we are, of course, in the kitchen every day, so we don't forget to water these because ferns need water. This is another north-facing window looking out over our yard. And actually, I'm not very excited about most of the plants here. This is the only orchid that I kept from my whole orchid collection. There's a terrarium that I completely ignored for a long time. And then there's this one, which I do love. This is my little Hoya serpens, which has grown so much. I got this as a small cutting. And as you can see, there's a lot of tendrils. There's a lot of, there's actually peduncles on this now. Not budding up, but at least it made peduncles. I love the texture of the leaves. It's like chicken skin or goosebumps in English. And there's a lot of tiny fuzzy baby leaves. Here's one of those peduncles I was talking about. And there's a few more somewhere on these. I'm going to be careful. So this is definitely very happy in a north-facing window, which is one of the Hoyas that prefer a little bit of a colder climate, apparently. I found this list on a website that I will link below from Doug. That is a good indication. But the north-facing gives it enough light, but not too much heat in summer. So Hoyas like linearis and serpens, and there are a few more that are cold preferring. They would do well there. On the other side of the kitchen is where my little mini orchid terrarium is, that I've made a video about, but you may not have seen yet because we're waiting for the terrariums to become available again. I got this from orchids.nl, and they have all these amazing jewel orchids and hybrids and just miniature orchids as well. Not all of them are doing great. You see some yellow leaves and some rotting leaves as well. But in general, I'm so happy with this thing. It's so beautiful. And so easy. Time to check out the plants in the bathroom. There's not a lot of them. And this window is my only west-facing window. The good thing about this is the door has a little shade cloth. So anytime it's warm enough, we open the door and then the plants have a little bit of protection. And then when it's not warm or not bright, we close the door and the plants get full access to the light. So that works pretty well. I have mostly succulent-y plants in here, and then some propagations as well, and some new plants that are isolating, but I still want them to get enough light. Let's start in the back. This is a very sad plant. This is my peperomia. I forgot the name, but it's the orange one that used to be super pretty. Now it's kind of sad, but it's okay. This is my only Pilea peperomioides pancake plant. I gave all of them away. I just kept a tiny one myself that's still growing, so that we still have one at least. Some lithops. And this is another Ring of Fire chunk that is growing. It rooted in perlite and now it seems to be growing there. And then this is a little propagation of a variegated syngonium that I propagated in water and just recently popped in here to grow further. Then there's a pingula, or whatever it's called, a butterwort, catching some fungus gnats for me. And my first ever, I'm very excited about this one. If you haven't seen my greenhouse video yet, I'm now excited about succulents. I know, it's weird. This is really closely related to Hoyas. They are the same family and the same, I don't know, very closely related. This is a Stapelia. Stapeliads, they're just very basic looking maybe, but then they create these flowers that are quite big and beautiful. So I'm excited to maybe one day have that happen for me. In this little jar, what is, oh, it's growing. Huh. So I repotted my dragon scale and I found some corms in there. I can't show you because it's so... Can I show you from the top maybe? Yeah, maybe. So I popped the corms in the box and you can actually see the one on the top there is starting to grow. I thought the added humidity might be nice. And I've actually started creating humidity domes like this from anything I could find. You'll see later on. Actually, you'll see right now because this is one of the only vegetable plants that I'm currently growing. I'm really curious to see if you guys grow veggies, if you like that kind of stuff, or fruits or whatever. this is gonna be a courgette plant, hopefully. Back here is a propagation of my Maranta kerchoviana, which was not doing well for the longest time, but I think it's finally getting a little bit happier, so that's good. And a propagation of philodendron neon, which I wanted for a long time, and then one of my patrons sent me a plant. This is one I tried to root in moss, which was a challenge, and I'm not going to do it again, but it worked, I think. And I'm just opening the bag now to let it get used to a little bit more humidity, and then hopefully it's going to be okay and happy in soil soon. This, you can't see anything. This is a propagation of Siltobacana that I just got in the mail today. And this is a pastazanum that came with that package as well. I'm really excited to see how that's going to go, but I'm going to keep it in there just for isolation purposes as well as higher humidity. In this thing, we have some propagations. Actually, I've been having the most trouble with this propagation. This is a philodendron lemon lime that I've had for ages, and it's not doing anything. I tried to propagate it in moss, didn't work, so now it's in water. See if that will help it. Some Vicky propagations as well. Ooh, this one does not look very happy. That's okay. And then some magical new propagations from a plant that I got cuttings from Mystery Man, which you will hear more about maybe soon. If you want to see a full plant, go check out Aunt on Instagram. Her Instagram is Urban Jungling. Some of the stems are showing these little white buds, which probably means that they're gonna root. And there's of course new growth in the eyes, which was already there when I got the plant, I think, or the cuttings. When these are bigger, they are very beautifully, they're like dark with pink variegated spots. And the variegation is steady, not like a pink princess. Maybe you can see it here a little bit on this leaf. So I'm excited to see if these will grow for me. A few more in this window. This is my Haworthia cooperi that I got from Rogier in the Botanic Garden video that we did about Haworthia. The tops of these are see-through and it's doing really well. It was my first Haworthia ever, but Rogier said they were easy, and he was right because they're making babies all over the side, see? And I can maybe even spread the love and give some to my friends. Back here is another lithops, which is actually a little bit more special because I think it doubled, see? So the old leaves were around there, and then these were the new leaves, and this one split open and it showed 2 leaves in one, if that makes any sense to you. Lithops. And when my mom was here for my birthday, she actually said, my birthday was last week, she said that she used to grow these and collect them. So she really liked that I'm now also growing them. And then over here, the last plant I'm going to show you in this corner is my Stefania erecta, which is doing okay. It really helped to put it in a plastic baggie, give it a little bit more high humidity to make it sprout. And now it has a few of those little nice stems. Okay, we made it down into the living room where most of my cool plants are, in my opinion. But first, let's take a quick second to talk about our sponsor, because Skillshare is actually a really interesting learning platform online where they have everything from classes about drawing and painting to very practical courses as well about photography and editing and all the things that I'm interested in, even yoga and meditation. And since it is created specifically for learning, you don't get any ads. You can just watch whenever you want to. Videos are pretty short and practical. And some of our favorites are on there, including some awesome YouTubers like Sorel Amour, but also our very own plant queen, Christopher, who in this class, Plants at Home Uplift Your Spirits and Your Space, gives amazing practical tips for both beginner and more experienced plant parents. The one I especially like is where he talks about patience with plants. So important. They're always adding new classes as well, so that is amazing. If you're interested in trying it out, use the link in my description. The first 1,000 people that use that link will get 1 month free access instead of 14 days to try everything out. Okay, back to the plants. There's a lot to see in my living room. There's a lot of different places with plants, mostly of course the windowsill. I used to have quite a few plants over there in that corner, but it's really a little bit too dark. So I have a few over here. And then we have the Hoya cabinet. Let's start with these two. This is the mother plant of the Maranta kerchoviana that I absolutely love, even though it's a super common houseplant. This is so beautiful to me, the way it grows. And I feel like the Marantas are much more easy to grow than all the other ones in the Marantaceae family. This is a little begonia. I actually forgot the ID, but I grew it from cuttings that I got from Maaike, from my friend. And they used to not be very pink when I got them, so I was curious how that happened. But finally, the splashy parts are turning pink. So I'm really proud that I have this begonia. I have 2 begonias alive now in my house. Then the Hoya shelves. Some of these have a heat mat underneath that obviously I switched off for summer, but in spring it was very useful and in winter. And there's some grow lights as well to make the plants very happy. There's a lot of different plants here, a lot of cuttings. So let's go through them. Oh, and we have 2 Anthurium crystallinums that I also grew from tiny seedlings that are sitting here. I'm testing them out in ambient humidity because I didn't have space in the terrarium anymore. This one is very damaged, but that's not from moving out of the terrarium. That was already very damaged in there because there was no space. So I'm really curious to see how these do outside. Look at the velvet. So pretty. And the crystals, which is hard to show on photos, but there's such beautiful shininess in the veins, in case you didn't know. Now let's start at the bottom for these. There are a few plants here that I'm still isolating a little bit because I got them as cuttings and I don't want to spread bugs from other places. This one actually is doing well because it is flowering, it looks like, so that's exciting. And in this bag we have my first ever lipstick plant, but a very different looking one. It's very dark. It has purple backs of the leaves, which is kind of cool. And this is a margravia I'm trying to grow on a board, but the board is really wobbly, so it's not great, but you can see there is new growth, and the new growth gets really red and then slowly fades to green, which is beautiful. Then back here we have a Hoya lobby, which is finally doing great. I had it in way too bright light before and the leaves got very different shaped and lighter, but now it's looking beautiful and growing. There's 2 growths on this one. And then over here is a little box of the Dischidia numularia, which was not doing well, so I just popped it in a box in the back so I forget about it. Sometimes it works better to grow plants that way, out of sight, so that you don't fuss about them too much. On this shelf are some of my bigger Hoyas, because obviously all the small cuttings that you're gonna see slowly will grow bigger. Unfortunately, there's always someone doing work in our street, so sorry about the background noise. I hope you don't mind it. This is a Hoya verticillata that I traded with a friend. You can see some new leaves on that. I think I'm going to put them down so I can show you all of them better. This is my regular Hoya carnosa, which is beautiful, I think. And it doesn't need as much light as some of the others, so that makes it quite easy. Oh, I forgot the name of this one, but it has beautiful bright pink flowers. So I traded this with a friend, or actually she gave it to me because I commented on how beautiful the flowers were. This is a Hoya verticillata that used to be known as Weibergier, and I actually see some new growth, so that's exciting. This is the one that the splash can turn purple and pink if you give it enough light. Although I've been trying to blast it with light and it doesn't work just yet. So there is a new eye activated at the bottom there. That's exciting. Sometimes that happens when you make the circles with the tendrils. So I've started to let this run wild in order to not mess up the growth. If you want to learn more about tendrils, I have a video on that as well. Let's see. Ooh, stuck together. Whoa, this has actually grown a lot. This is Hoya meredithy. It's quite a different form than the one I have in my terrarium. As you can see, the leaves have clear veins, but not as clear as some of the others. And this has grown, I think it came with this leaf when I got it and this one. So it's grown a lot since I got it. And it's kind of been hiding between the others, so I didn't realize how big it had gotten. Very cool. This one is also a really prolific grower. This is my Hoya erythrina. I put it on a spiral trellis, which I've been testing out. I'm not sure yet what I think, but it's interesting to play around with these things. I love how the leaves look. These are new. It's a really fast growing and easy Hoya in my experience. So that's really nice and interesting. It was a good buy. Then here, ooh, they are all stuck together. Oh yeah, actually I can't move this because it's growing up to there. Those little leaves are also the same, and then it's growing to the next shelf as well. So we're gonna leave this here. But this is the mama plant of the Hoya cinnamomifolia varpurpurfusca. So some of those died off and I have them upstairs, but this one is still downstairs. And hanging all over it is my Hoya croniana silver, which we don't call it Eskimo anymore because that's not very respectful to the people that used to be name called that, in case you didn't know. It's growing a lot. This used to be so tricky for me, but now it's growing and it's not so difficult. So I'm very happy about that. Look at the beautiful abs on those leaves. Here is my caudata with really, really weird looking leaves. But if you look at it a little bit closer, they are actually really shimmery. So from afar, they just look like dusty leaves with some poop on it or something, but they actually are beautiful. Look at this one. Shiny and splashy and very easy as well. This has grown so much. I got it with these bottom 2 leaves and all of the other stuff is new. I'm kind of zigzagging it around to see if that is going to work because it's growing so fast. And I think there's a peduncle here. Moving over to this side, this is a tiny little Ludicea discolor jewel orchid that I got last year for my birthday. And that did not do very well. I thought it was dead, but I think it's coming back, so yay. And then Hoya crassipetiolata that I got from my friend, which is also growing really fast and tendriling all the way up to here. So that's really fun. Here's another cutting of the Cinnamomophilia, which is growing as well all the way up here. They're grabbing onto anything they can grab onto. This is the mother plant of my globulosa that is growing down there and up here as well. Like I said, upstairs, it's very unpredictable. So it's growing now, but then it will stop again for ages. It's just, I don't know what to say about this plant. It's a weird one. Back here is the variegated macrophylla, the regular variegation, the outside variegation, with a new tendril that I actually tied up back there, but it used to be like this, with beautiful new leaves, with the pink from the nice amount of light that it's getting here. Back here is my Hoya fungi, which is one of the fastest growing plants. I got this last year as a cutting, a tiny cutting with this leaf. It was my birthday gift from a friend, and it's grown so much. The leaves have gotten bigger, the veins are beautiful, and there's a new velvety leaf right there. That's also on a spiral trellis. This one is Hoya macrophylla pot of gold, so the inner variegated one. I just posted this on my Instagram a few days ago because it is so beautiful. Look at that gradient effect on the inside. Absolutely beautiful. I bought this from a friend and it's been tricky. So it stopped growing for a while, and then I took this cutting to see if I could activate it again. And it worked because this is new and this is some tiny baby leaves that are new. And I potted them again together recently to hopefully make this a fuller pot. Here is Hoya lacunosa that I actually dropped this morning when I was hoovering the house. So it fell over and a lot of the branches got snapped off. Unfortunately, they're all on the table waiting for me to propagate them now. And here is the flower on it. I love the smell of these. It's really flowery, a little bit like a Croniana. And this also I grew from a cutting and it's grown so much. Actually, look at this. This is the base of the globulosa. That's a really thick plant. Interesting. So then we move over to this shelf, which is my favorite because it's so packed with new Hoya babies. Hopefully I can remember all the IDs to tell you, but let's start over here. This is Hoya Rebecca, so similar to Hoya Sunrise, but just a different look to it. And it's grown quite a lot. It's adorable, very small still. And you can see by the ceramis that it's quite dry, so I might need to water these. Then we have my Hoya Species Affinity Bertoniae. That's here, not confusing it with that one. This is growing, but also one of the tendrils recently just died off. It's very fickle, in my opinion. This is also a Species Affinity Bertoni, but a different form. As you can see, the leaves are a little bit rounder, more round, and it's growing a lot easier. There's some tendrils here. There's a new tendril over there getting nice suntan. So that's a lot more easy than the regular form that you often see. Behind there is actually some variegated syngoniums. When I repotted mine, I saw that the stem was pretty long, so I decided to just chop it into small bits, and these are growing now. So that's going to be a more full pot when I pot them all together. Behind there is Dischidia ovata, together with the leaves of that one I was talking about before. There's lots of tendrils everywhere. That was struggling actually, but it's doing good again now. And then since we're looking at the back here, that is my variegated Hoya compacta, the inner variegated, so the Mauna Loa. It's a very, very slow grower, but it's growing. I haven't had much trouble with it, so that's really cool. This is Hoya obscura, looking really nice. And in front here, this is Hoya Buotti Sunriser, which has very cool shapes of the leaves. It's a very different kind of shape, and it's been growing quite well, so that's nice. What is this? Oh yeah, a little Hoya Huskilliana yellow flower. And on top of that, my variegated Hoya Huskilliana, which is taking over. It has some nice new growth points there as well. And in front of that, I hope you can tell them all apart. This is possibly the actual Hoya bilobata, which I got from a friend because it's not velvety at all, or not hairy. Do you see? So I might have an actual bilobata next to my fake bilobatas. Let's see, this is hard to show you because it's so cramped in here, but this is the Louis Provence that I got for my birthday from Ronya, my friend. And then in the front here, we have a hanging lacunosa, which was in my tent, so it had way too much light. It was super bleached, but that did help to make it start to flower. So we have some nice flowers here, and the smell is amazing, and it's still growing. So this one is my Hania purple that I bought recently. You can see the hole on my channel somewhere, and it is growing. This is the one with the most beautiful Hoya flowers, in my opinion, ever. So I'm really excited that this is growing. I'm gonna put some of these down so you can see. Oh, and don't forget this one. These are cuttings I took from my Hoya Huskilliana because it was so long and tall and impractical. And this is actually a old box where some tomatoes came in, some little snack tomatoes. So now it's a little humidity dome for the propagations. There's so much to see in here. I'm just gonna take some of these out. So this is the Hoya Louis Provence. That's not rooted yet, probably. Oh, I forgot the ID of this one as well. I got it from a friend who came to visit. And oh, look at the roots. This is why I like to use glass vessels. I would have no idea how this is doing if this was not glass. I don't see any growth yet, but the leaves are very beautifully sun-stressed and veiny, so I'm excited to grow that. This is my Hoya Callistophila, which is also growing really well. It had some trouble here. I lost some leaves. I think it's from putting it on this spiral trellis, but it's growing again beautifully up here. Where is the light? There we go. Lots of veiny, beautiful leaves. So I'm very excited about this. This is one of my favorite Hoyas. All right, we're getting to the back, which is cool. This is Hoya Viola, which was one of my wishlist Hoyas, and one of my friends had it and sold me a cutting. So I see roots, yes, that's cool, it's alive. And as you can tell, all these vessels don't have drainage holes. I prefer to propagate that way. I have them either in ceramis or in soil without drainage so that I can keep them nice and moist while they grow. This is my Hoya Finlaysoni, which grew very weirdly, but it's growing, so I'm not complaining. Some of these leaves are beautiful, but the grow light is making it hard to see. Maybe this way. Anyway, it's growing, it's beautiful, it's a bit slow, so I have it in the back there. Next is a bit of a project. This is my Hoya Macrophylla, the non-variegated one. It has a lot of roots. Like, it was super root bound, so that is why I repotted, and also I took a cutting to see if I can activate growth again, because this has literally not grown anything but a tendril for me in the time that I've had it. I think I snapped the tendril while trying to trellis it up. But that's okay, because it's nothing anyway. There's no leaves on there anymore. In the back here, we have Hoya Meliflua, which is an interesting one I got from a friend. It has not grown a lot since I've had it. Even with giving it a tendril and repotting, it's growing roots, at least. It looks healthy and happy. But there's no new growth for ages. So that's interesting. This is a propagation of the one I showed you before, the Hoya Meredithy. That's the mama. But just like the mama, it's growing quite fast and easy, so that's nice. And then the last one to show you is my Hoya Gunung Gading. Oh no, how did we pronounce this? Gunung Gading, I think, because it's from Malaysia. And it is beautiful. When I put the trellis around this top part of the tendril died off, unfortunately. So that's a bit sad, but I think it is growing a new... Did I just hurt that? I think I just made it bleed. That's a new growth point there. So that's exciting. And then there's a growth point down here as well, which some of the leaves have weird damage. And I'm wondering if there's a pest or something that I haven't seen yet. I didn't see anything on the leaves before when I checked it, but there's little dots. See? Indentations. But this is definitely my most beautiful Hoya ever. Let's look at some aroids, because this has been a lot of Hoya talk and I know not everyone likes Hoyas. As you can maybe tell, I've really fallen in love with Hoyas. I have so many of them that once they grow up to be big plants, it's gonna be crowded in here. But I like to have these small plants and see how they grow, and then maybe I decide I really like them, or maybe I decide they're not for me, and I can trade them again or sell them so that I have the plants that I really enjoy growing, not just seeing on Instagram, because that's really different in my opinion than actually growing a plant and seeing how it grows in your care. So that's why I have so many. I'm not afraid to let go of them again if I need to, or if they don't spark joy, like Marie Kondo would say. On this side of the room, we have a few Hoyas as well, and then the terrarium, which of course I will show you up close as well. Some really cool crawlers on the table and some cuttings, and then we'll end with the windowsill. Up here is a small Hoya Mathilde that was flowering, or like budding up, but it dropped all the buds, unfortunately. It's a bit of a weird plant, and I have a lot of them anyway. Here's my Hoya Curtisi, which is beautiful, but a little bit tricky to grow. It seems to be growing all right. Seems to have new leaves, so that's very exciting. And I think it's happier here than it was in the tent. My Hoya linearis is here temporarily because it was in a pot that was too small. So I had to repot it, and now I can't hang it up. So I think I'm gonna have to make a little macrame thingy for it to hang upstairs again, because this actually used to live upstairs normally. And the same goes for my Hoya polynura that was also really ready for a repot. But now the pot is bigger, so it doesn't fit into the little hanging thingy anymore. So I have to make a new hanging thingy, maybe later today. Look, the beautiful new leaves. This is kind of a weird one for me. It's really slow growing, but then when it does grow, I'm in love with it again, like this. But when it's not growing, I'm like, meh, meh. Is that rude to say? Sorry, little plant. Here are the cuttings of the lacunosa. As you can see, a lot of the stems broke off, sadly. But I guess I'm gonna make my mom and friends happy. This Hoya Rosita used to also be on the shelves, but I moved it. I think it's ready to be hung up somewhere or live somewhere else, not on the propagation shelf, because it's grown really full. That's really exciting. I got this from one tendril that survived my care. So I'm really happy with this one. And of course it's Rosita, it's my name. So down here is something very exciting. If you are new to my channel, this plant is one of my first hard to find plants. It's Caspar, the Florida ghost, and he had some issues, but now he is beautiful again. I potted together 3 plants, so you can see here 2 new leaves, basically tandem opening, and then there's a little propagation down there as well. So there's different levels of green and white and mint, and I absolutely love it. I'm so happy that this is back to growing well. Look how beautiful that is as well. It's growing in all directions. And my main tip for these is, if you want white leaves, definitely give it a little bit more light, but don't give it too much or they will die off and it will become a very sad story. Really happy that Caspar is back. In here is my terrarium with some of my absolute favorite plants. Unfortunately, I've been having some thrips issues in here, which is really frustrating and annoying and sad, but I think it's gonna be okay. That is why this Hoya Bella, which is where the thrips were on, is in a little box with predatory mites to hopefully keep it from spreading more. But this is my Hoya Bella Annekabuis, so the outer variegated Hoya Bella. I had no idea that thrips even liked Hoyas, so keep an eye on your Hoya Bellas, because apparently they are more thrips and spider mite prone than other Hoyas. The other one is back here. This is my Hoya Bella Lidabuis, or known as Louis Bois in some places. But it's originally named Lidabuis, and it is beautiful. It's easy growing, it's fast. Look at that pink. one of my absolute favorites, hanging out with Cleo, which we'll look at in a moment. But first, let's talk about this living wall situation, which I haven't showed you yet. I should make a video about it actually, but it's not growing very well yet. So back here we have a Hoya Hoya, stop with the Hoyas. Rhaphidophora cryptantha growing up the wall. And then a Bruntianum, Philodendron Bruntianum. Then there is a tiny Rhaphidophora Hyi, which is starting to attach to the wall. These are so easy to grow. And a little Margravia that I just pinned on here a short while ago, that's also growing. Over here we have a Ficus villosa that's hopefully gonna grow against the living wall as well. And then my beautiful little orchid, Lepanthes calodiction, if I'm saying that right, probably not. That's also growing well. Pink Princess Mama is here, currently working on, or I think it's already released by now, Pink Princess propagation and care video, so keep an eye out for that if you're interested. Then some really cool Hoyas, or some really tricky Hoyas. This is Hoya Dakii, that's been a little bit of a bitch, but she's gonna be okay. She's growing again. Then we have a Crassipetiolata Splash that's growing quite well as well. And my little, very special Hoya that nearly died. This is Nicholsonia New Guinea Ghost. It literally, the stem, everything was dead, but I was able to root literally that one leaf, and the eye apparently worked. So it's now growing tiny baby leaves, baby ghost leaves from that eye. You can see the roots here. And I hope that it's gonna stay alive, because this was such a special plant that someone gifted me, and then I basically killed it very quickly. You can see that one of the leaves that was smaller died off here. It broke off, but that's okay. The two main ones are still there. Then we have a Hoya cutting that is probably a GPS, so forgot something, 072 maybe? That is also growing. Where's the new leaf? There's some new leaves in the bottom there. And I'm going quite fast, like I said, because I'll make a separate terrarium video as well. This one is Hoya, I forgot the, Hoya Ale, A-L-E. That is beautiful and hopefully rooting and growing. This is my Flagellata that is definitely growing from 3 different tendrils now. So it's a little bit like a Caudata. It's so shiny and beautiful. It's amazing. Then we have, here is Hoya Rincey Borneo. That had some thrips on the new leaf, so that's why there's a little baggy there. And it is growing a new leaf, so that's exciting. And this one is my Hoya Clementiorum. Looking beautiful, but struggling a little bit, growing up against the top of the terrarium. So it's grown a new tendril, and hopefully it will continue to grow some leaves for me. Back there, in the other video, I will take all of these out and show you properly. This is just a quick, so I can show you everything. That's my Peninsularis with the main leaf, and then it grew this new leaf that you see here on the right. It's a little bit sun damaged, and I found a thrip on there, a thrips, so I'm keeping an eye on that as well, but it's growing, so I'm excited. And then the anthuriums are a little bit hard to show you because they've gotten so big. On the left here we have Reggie, the Anthurium Regal, which his new leaf is touching the top and almost touching the floor as well. It's so big. And then Cleo, my Hoya, what is wrong with me? My queen Anthurium is also super tall, and she's touching the floor for sure. So she's gaining size very fast, which I'm super excited about. And then in the back there, the last, and no, not the last Anthurium, but the last cool Anthurium is the Forgetti that's growing back here. It's doing well. It's not increasing in size as quickly as the others, but it's still beautiful and looking good. And there's a little jewel orchid back there as well. There's some of the crystallinum babies that I moved in here. And the last plant to show you in here is this one, which is also very exciting. I haven't showed you this yet. This is my Philodendron atapapuense. So with the back, super red backs. And it's grown 3 leaves already since I got it. So it's doing well, it's growing fast, and it's awesome. I know I'm going really fast, and I'm really sorry if this is not what you were hoping for, but I don't want this video to be like 2 hours long because I don't think many people will watch it. So sorry about that. And I will make a really chill video about the terrarium and all the growth updates and all the details of the leaves and stuff soon. Then we have this cool pot of alocasias that is normally closer to the window. I just slid it back a little bit so that we can see. There are two variegated zebrinas in here, with one being more light variegated or like green variegated, and this one used to have really bright variegation on all the leaves, but the latest leaf that it grew for me, maybe it was over being variegated because that's completely green. I wonder what this new leaf will look like. That might have some nice variegation, because this one seems to always have a steady amount, even though it's not very visible or clear because it's such dark variegation. We have a little baby cupria that I don't know, it's not doing great actually, but it's living, so I might give that to a friend, maybe my mom or something. And there's a little zebrina baby here that you can already see the zebrina stripes on it. That's one of the corms that started to grow. And here on the other side is my little plastic baggie solution for having these two, because these have been so tricky. This is my silver dragon baby that was struggling a lot, so I put the bag around it, and then it grew this beautiful, small but beautiful leaf. And my black velvet alocasia, which also was struggling a lot, as you can see a little bit. This new leaf looks a lot better. It doesn't come across on screen very well because it's shimmery and beautiful, but it doesn't always show that on screen because it's so dark as well. You can see some bugs on there. They are good bugs, don't worry. Small alocasias are quite tricky compared to big ones in my experience. And then the windowsill itself. There's actually a random Hoya in here that doesn't belong here. This is my Hoya camphorifolia, which was on a trellis, but it was such a full trellis that leaves kept yellowing and dying because they didn't get any light on it, I think. So now I'm not quite sure what to do with it. It's not my favorite. If I give it more light, it will be really beautiful, but I don't have the space necessarily. So I might sell this or something. I don't know yet. What do you think? Do you like Hoya camphorifolia? Let me know in the comments. We have my verrucosum Vicky, which is finally looking beautiful again. If you remember, she used to be a lot taller. That's because these are only the top cuttings that I kept. The big plant I air layered and cut up and sold all the cuttings. Back here we have a Hoya pubicalis splash that I got from a friend. Some of the leaves have a lot of splash, others don't, but that's okay. It's a very easy grower. I got this as a small propagations, and it's basically a full plant now. Then we have Ollie, the obovata, which is growing together with the pubicalis. Interesting. Ollie is doing really well. I looped him up a few times because he used to be so tall. It wasn't very handy, very practical. So the sun is shining. I'm really sorry about the bright light. He has flowered for me several times and is flowering again, which is amazing. I love the flowers. They're kind of pink, light pink and white, and they are beautiful. So I'm really happy. And the splash is a little bit purple pink. This is Hoya supermoy. No, this is actually a Hoya sp species that has not been identified yet, but until we know what it is, we've started calling it supermoy because it's really beautiful. It sun stresses beautifully as well, and it's such a fast grower. Look, there's more leaves here and here. I recently got a cutting off it for my mom, but I also have friends that have cuttings off it, and it's growing everywhere. This is a very, very easy and beautiful big leaved Hoya that I absolutely love. One of the first ones that I grew in my house. One of the first Hoyas that I got. This is my yellow variegated syngonium that I'm propagating. It has a lot of variegation. As you can see, this part is green and the rest is gonna be yellow. And this as well, this was a full yellow leaf, but I'm gonna cut that. Hopefully it's air layering a little bit, and then I'll have another node. Some of the plants that I've taken off here were full green, so that's not super interesting, but this one I think is gonna be good. And this is the top cutting, which is absolutely stunning. Katja, her name is. Also a little bit like a lot of variegation. This is the first leaf that it grew, and it's browning. This one was on the plant when I got it. And this one is also fully, it's almost gone because there was only this one layer of green on it. There's a new leaf on the way. This has been so fun to grow. I absolutely love it. Every time a leaf comes out, I think, oh, it has no variegation. And then as it slowly starts to lighten, as it hardens, you see that it is actually perfect half moon leaf. So that's really, really cool. I actually cut this up because the stem was really bare and long from having spider mites. You can see here, this is what the original leaves looked like when I got it. So that's not very pretty, but if we can create a few more plants out of it from those ugly leaves, then I'm very happy. Then the next plant that lives here is my Alocasia aslani. And this is the one with the incredibly beautiful purple pink leaves, if you look at it in the right light. But the way it lives in my house, you actually hardly ever see this, because this is what leaves look like when I see them. Because the light is coming from outside and I'm looking from this way, the outer edges are beautifully neon, and actually I love that the leaf size is increasing. This is a very cool plant that is now more accessible in the Netherlands, so I'm really happy about that. Really happy I got this. Look, oh, beautiful. It reminds me of a cupria, but less abs and more mysterious darkness, if that makes any sense. Next to it is my beautiful, beautiful Hoya Wayeti variegata. That is a little bit of a tricky one. I don't really know what I'm doing with it yet, but so far it is growing. So that's exciting. Look, you can see here, there's a new leaves opening, and these grew in my care. There's leaves all over the place. This was such a full plant when I got it, and it's still becoming more and more full. See all the baby leaves that are trying to come out of the... It's a really full pot. Jessica, you're the best. This is such a cool plant. I got this from Bladgoud Plants on Instagram and Etsy. Highly recommend. She's also my friend, but I also highly recommend her shop. A few more to go. Some of my absolute favorites. Oh, one of my absolute favorites is right here. Hello, mister. Hi. Let's go from this side. This is Ferry, my variegated monstera that has kind of slowed growth a little bit recently, but he is so full and beautiful, and I love him. I'm sad that he's facing outwards. All the leaves are facing towards the light, of course, so that's a little bit sad, but he is beautiful. So normally the leaves are facing outside, so I decided to make the moss pole a little bit more interesting with some beautiful micans plants that I didn't really think about, but they actually have grown all the way up to the top, so that's really cool. My friend said, "Whoa, your micans is so big." And I was like, ah, I guess it is. I never really realized it. By the way, look at this, the stem, and then the aerial roots going straight out. I don't know why they don't go into the moss where they actually can grab onto something. But this plant is very doing its own thing, which you can also see here. Some of the aerial roots, I make sure that they end up in the soil, but they really are quite, how do you say? Eigenwijs, doing their own thing. And then here we have a regular Philodendron scandens that is not doing as well. I think it might prefer a little bit more light. I'm not quite sure. But I thought that could also grow up the stem. It hasn't happened yet. I had my armpit over Mickey's face, so he's a little bit upset that I woke him up again. Then up here we have two more variegated monsteras. This is one of the plants that I was gonna sell, but the sale ended up not working out in the end. So then I decided to keep it, and this leaf was unfurling anyway, so I'm happy that I waited. I'm air layering this, and then I'm gonna chop it up and sell single node cuttings that are rooted, so that it's a little bit more affordable for people, and more maybe people that didn't think they could get their hands on one can get their hands on one. It's a beautiful plant. Some of the leaves have a lot of white, which not everyone likes, but I absolutely adore. I did learn that the oil on our fingers can damage the white parts, so I'm not touching it. I'm trying not to touch it. You can see here the air layering. It's growing really well. There's roots all over the place, and I hope that that's gonna give some nice, healthy, happy plants for some new people that don't have this yet. The other one that's up here is the one I'm keeping because it's so beautiful. Perfect half moon leaves with almost every leaf, secondary fenestrations. It's really wonky as well, which I like because this part is green, so it's much more easy to grow. The white part is much smaller. And then here you can see half moon. This is the original leaf that I propagated it from. Here's some smaller ones, half moon, half moon, half moon, all over the place, which I love. So this is my personal plant. I'm keeping it. I think I'm actually going to put all of them on the table to show you because the light is very bright now from the back. So this is Thijs, my Thai constellation, which seems to be alternating between a normal mottled leaf, and a half moon-ish leaf, which it's getting really full. I don't know how people do this with Thai constellations. Like the leaves are all behind each other. Should I help it out or should I do something? I don't know. This is the latest leaf that it grew. Again, beautiful with secondary fenestrations and a little bit half moony. And then behind there is the other one. I don't know what to do with this. If you have tips, let me know. Normally my plants will adjust the leaves so that they can catch the sun, but I guess since the white parts don't really need the sun, maybe that's why they're not adjusting to a different position. I'm not quite sure. But this is nice. Very happy with how he's been growing. And by the way, this is my south-facing window, and the monsteras up there are always in the bright sun, even in high summer. But down here, I normally have shade cloths for summer. It's been really rainy and dreary here, so that's why they're not up right now. But if it stays sunny like this, then I might put them back up so that the plants don't burn. And the same goes for this side, because I noticed that the Hoyas sometimes don't like that much of light. They get burnt rather than sun-stressed, which of course we don't want. So normally there's a little bit of a shade cloth here when it's so sunny. The last two plants that are here are my two alocasias that are hanging out together, and it's actually going really well with them. Let me also put this here. So on one side we have my alocasia Michaelitiana Maxkowski, aka Frydek, that still had some leaves from last year, but they were all a little bit yellow and a little bit floppy. Like plop. So I was really happy that it finally started to grow new leaves. This is one of the new ones. So velvet and beautiful. And this one as well. There's several plants in this pot, which makes it really fun to grow because it's a little bit more full. I did notice that this stem is very long, so that's why I started looking into possibilities of stem propagation. Or actually my first thought was to just pot it a little bit deeper in the pot, but this was so root bound with the other babies that I couldn't pot it down to here, because then the other ones would be underneath the soil. So that's why I was looking into possibly propagating it, because there's already a little growth point there. That's Frida, and Frida loves to hang out with Draki, which is my dragon scale. There's a lot of spider mite bags in here because, if you don't know, alocasias are very prone to spider mites. This was actually one plant that I had back here. This was my original, but it's been growing really small leaves and growing very slow. So a while back I bought a second one that had a lot of plants in one pot, and I potted them together so that I don't have to wait so long for a new leaf. I absolutely love how they come out in this more light green shade, and then they slowly turn almost gray black when they're hardening off. Absolutely one of my favorite plants, and I hope that it's doing well. It might want some water, but I hope that it's doing well now that I potted them together. And I actually have these together in a cache pot, or whatever you call it. Frida wants a lot more water than Draki. So what I do is I have the Frida pot on the floor, so that when I pour water in there, she can still pull up more water. And then I have leckables so that this one does not sit in the water, that it stays a little bit more dry when I water them. That's been working out really well. And then there were two. These two are the last two I'm going to show you today. So this is my Philodendron Ploumani that I got with this leaf. Pretty small, but beautiful. And it's grown a lot bigger since then. It's currently growing another leaf. And I love this one. I had no idea that I would love this much. I was thinking, which crawler can I try? Maybe Gloriosum or Pastazanum or something. And then some of my friends said the Ploumani is much more beautiful as a small plant compared to the Pastazanum that is a little bit boring, until it gets really big and pillowy. So they recommended to get this instead, and I did, and I'm so happy I did. It's beautiful, amazing. And the ruffles behind the leaves are amazing as well. Let me show you. Look, the stem is like a little flat pancake with ruffles on each side. It's so cool. I love this plant. Unexpected, but love it. And then the last one is my Gloriosum. This one I got from a friend. I helped him find this plant when it was really small for a really affordable price. And then he offered to give me this cutting with this huge leaf, his top cutting. And I said, you don't have to cut up your plant for me. But he said, yes, I want to, and you don't have it yet. So he did. This is the original leaf. It's yellowing a little bit. It grew this leaf in my care, but it was already on the plant when we cut it. And I moved it in the car when it was unfurling. So it's a little bit damaged and it's much smaller, obviously, than the original leaf. But that's fine because the next one it's grown for me is already twice as big almost. And it's still a little bit floppy, so it still needs to harden off. I don't know exactly what these slimy bits are. There's a lot of them on this plant, specifically like here. See, there might be a snail in my house hiding, but this was on there already when it was unfurling, so it might be from the unfurling as well. I'm not quite sure. If there's any plant experts that know what this is, please send me a DM and tell me, or leave it in the comments, because I'm fascinated. And if there is a snail in my house, I want to catch it and I want to throw it out, because they are often hiding in the pot with you not seeing it because it only comes out at night. And I feel a little bit greedy for now having 2 gloriosums, but it was very interesting to see the difference in growing them, because this was a top cutting and the other one wasn't, and this one still has the original leaf and the other one doesn't. So I actually thought about making a video about it, but then I haven't filmed that yet because I have so many other videos to edit. And it's interesting to see the difference in leaf size as it grows. So I have 2. I feel sorry, but I have 2. It was good trades with my friends, so don't hate me, please. And that's it already for this houseplant tour already. I wonder how long this video is gonna be. I have no idea. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments which plant you love the most, and if you liked the way I did it now for showing you all of my plants in the house, including the grow tent and the terrarium, or if it was a little bit too much. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. If you haven't already, maybe joining my Patreon or YouTube membership. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, friends! Mickey also says, thank you for watching. We love you. Take care of yourselves. Take a nap, maybe. Where are you? Show me. No. This one, maybe? No. Where are the stems that are rooting? Including the greenhouse, no, pest free, because this is my alocasia. Why can I not think of the name? It's been really rainy and dreary is what I tried to say together. Here, it's growing everywhere, except for maybe one friend. Sorry, Jessica. The shape. Say hi to YouTube. Nope, continue sleeping. Okay,